Yo guys, it's oovi. I'm going to get a quick backtesting session of October 2025. So we're going into the macro 9:30 open. I don't see all that much on the hourly or the 15-minute. So let's see what 9:30 open tells us. So we've taken out this internal low with SMT. Then we push higher, take out this internal high. Do we get any form of order block? We do. Right, let's see. So we do have SMT right here. It's not a very good SMT, but I can still take a trade off of it. I want to see what happens at this internal low right here before taking any shorts, because we could still be bullish. So we failed to push higher, displacement lower. I'm going to take a discretionary entry off of that. And there's one of two things that you could do here really. You could either have your stop loss above this high, more protected, and have a risky TP and target the full draw, or you could just target a 1-to-1 inside of the gap. But in this situation I'm going to target the full draw, as on the higher time frame it seems rather bearish. We're inside of this 1 hour gap, we're respecting it right now. We've just taken out a draw on liquidity on the lower time frame, and now we have this big imbalance to fill. So let's see how we react. So rebalance into the 50%. So let's mark that out. We get a rebalance into the 50%, almost, not perfectly, but let's see what happens from there. So yeah, just straight displacement towards take profit. Beautiful trade. Next day. So we're going to go straight to 940, and what do we see? We see straight displacement towards the lows. On the higher time frame, what do we see? We do see this draw on liquidity right here about to get met, or has it already been met? No, so that's about to get met. So to be honest, this could be shorts all day down to these lows. It looks more like a continuation sequence. When we get a big displacement candle like this, it tends to just continue, because we've ran a lot of points in this one move. So let's see what we can find. So we take this draw. What happens at this draw? So we displace through the draw. So what does that tell us? That tells us we can be looking for a continuation sequence. So realistically, I'd like to see some sort of rebalance, displacement lower, and I'd take some shorts. So we failed to create the order block. The order block should have been created right here. So let's see. So yeah, this is bearish signatures in my opinion. So I want to see some sort of rebalance into this gap. If we get, yeah, so we've got the rebalance. So now we're looking at PXL. So if this respects, we can take shorts. So it does respect, and we get a candle flip with some speed. I'm going to take that towards the lows. Stop loss right there, just above the high. So this is really low risk on the trade for a nice 1k profit. So around a 3 RR here. Beautiful. Lovely stuff. So we get displacement straight towards the draw. This is just a very bearish day. We've done nothing but pump lower all day. I expected nothing other than that. Right, so next day. So we do have news, and it's a Friday, so I'm going to check if it's... So it's not NFP, we've got PMI. So we've got 9:45 and 10 PM, I believe. No, it doesn't seem like we have 9:45. So let's see what happens. Right, so going into 9:30, we get a displacement above the internal draw. Let's see. So ES is very choppy. So it looks like a rather low probable day in my opinion. On the hourly, we've taken this draw here. So to be honest, I'm a bit uncertain on this one. I don't really know what's going to happen. So let's just wait and see from 9:30. So manipulation, displacement lower. Looks like SMT. That's also displacement. To be honest, I feel like I could take a rather aggressive entry here and take longs off of the rip. And just run some sort of 1-to-1. Because we've got this internal manipulation right here, and then we have immediate displacement with draws higher. It's a pretty risky trade, but we should see it play out hopefully. So let's see. So the question is here, what do we want to target? So realistically, I'm not sure if we'll even get a 1-to-1 out of that because I don't see it running all the way up there. But we might do, so I'm just going to target this first, like, I'm going to target this civvy right here. On the 5 minute, that's the rejection block. So we're looking for a full fill of this gap, but we could manipulate into this gap, displace lower to then push higher, so we'll see. So straight to TP, that I don't know, that's a crazy candle. Right, let's play the rest of the macro out and see how it looks. So right here, that's looking good for shorts. We do have, no, we don't have SMT. It does look good for shorts, but it could just be a rebalance for the higher time frame narrative. I am going to keep trading this day because I want to see if there's a macro entry, as that were 931, I believe. So we're respecting bullish BD arrays. Looks like we're going to manipulate again. So that's a bullish signature in my opinion. To be honest, manipulation at 50% of the range, draws lower. I feel like we could actually take shorts here. It looks like a session where we're just playing ping pong, so we can refer to this gap and maybe enter off of that. But we'd like to see a nice push, really. You know what, I'm going to take a 1-to-1 off of this. So I'll set my stops up here, and I'll go for a simple 630. So let's see what happens. Right. Interesting. Manipulation again. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is just ping pong. Interesting. Right, next day. So do we have any news? It's a Monday, so no, it's a no news Monday. So on no news Mondays, from our data, I tend to see continuation days. It's either a continuation day or a really low probable day usually, but I have quite a lot of success on Mondays, so we'll see how it goes. So right, so what have we done on the higher time frame? So yeah, a continuation sequence with PXH on the higher time frame. It just happened at 9:05. So realistically, we've had the market structure shift here. We can look for some form of maybe a rebalance displacement to the upside, take an entry off of that. So we displace lower, take out this internal low, and then displace higher. That does look nice for longs in my opinion, just towards this draw higher. So I'm going to take a discretionary entry there. This is rather risky, so I don't think I don't feel comfortable risking that much on this trade. So I'm going to have a risky stop loss around there. So let's see what happens. So yeah, we get stopped out on that and we push lower. So the narrative was wrong here, we was bearish. And yeah, on the higher time frame I should have been able to spot that after we've respected the PXH and then came back to it. There's no reason to do that. Although we do have SMT on ES. So let's see what happens. So we tap into the gap. That right there was a valid entry for longs, but I just think it's the wrong side of the narrative. And I feel like we should internally manipulate here. This should hold, we should displace lower, and this should be the optimal entry. So let's see, yeah. So we get a displacement lower, rebalance to the order block, more displacement. It looks like we're going to take these lows. So I'd be aiming towards these lows down here, but I'm not sure if we'll meet that full thing. So I'd have already entered, yeah, there. TP hit. Beautiful. So the reason I didn't take the trade is just because I'd already taken my one trade on the day. I like to keep the data accurate as I'd only take one trade live. So right, next day, Tuesday, no news once again. Instead of jumping straight into the macro, I'm going to keep going straight from 9:30 because I feel like it's good to spot the entries from 9:30 and see how it moves to collect data. So let's see what happens. So we displaced lower off rip. So let's check the higher time frames and see what we can spot. So we've got manipulation at the external high. Is that all-time highs? Yes. So we're at all-time highs right here. And to be fair, it looks like we're just displacing lower on every time frame. It's a higher time frame reversal, so hopefully we can just catch continuation of the reversal. So we set a high in here with manipulation. That does look rather good for shorts in my opinion. But it's just too early. We're going to hold off, wait for macro this session. So yeah, so we displace higher, so I'm completely wrong. We set in another high with manipulation, chop around. So that looks like the move to me. I can't lie, that really does. But we're just going to stay patient because we're close to SMT. It just doesn't... There's too much chop. I'd rather just wait. So yeah, we could have got a 1-to-1 off of that, but it's choppy, choppy, choppy. So let's wait for some manipulation. Right, yeah, so we've got SMT off of this high here. So SMT right there, so let's see how the SMT reacts. So what I'm looking at right now, I want to see what happens with this candle. So we get a closure below 50% there with the SMT. I'm going to take an entry, I'm going to try and get some shorts here down to the full draw, as this has got a lot of confluence. We have, it's 50% of the range with manipulation. I'm not sure if it's exactly 50%, but I've manipulated above 50% of the range right here. We're expecting a 5-minute gap on the higher time frame. On the 15-minute, we've got the rejection block on our entry. And on the hourly, we have a draw lower. We've taken the draw and we have this gap as the draw lower. So it's got a lot of confluence, so we should see immediate displacement towards TP. So let's see. Speed and efficiency. There we go, beautiful. So that's a perfect trade. Nothing to say about that session. Absolutely nothing I did wrong there. Beautiful stuff. So next day. Let's see. So 9:30 open on the hourly. Honestly, this is sketchy. I really don't see anything. There's nothing I can get from this besides we can manipulate into this gap and then push lower towards these lows, but it doesn't really give me a narrative. So let's drop onto the 5 or the 15-minute and see what we can get. So we've got these highs here that are manipulating. We've got SMT on ES. So I'm leaning more towards bearish right now, but I could be wrong. So we will see. So we manipulate the highs. Holy shit. Yeah, so I was very wrong there. We just displace higher. So what is the draw that we're pushing towards? So we're inversing this 4-hour gap and pushing towards this 1-hour draw with the looks of things. So this could just very well be a continuation day through these highs. So let's mark that out and be very wary for it. So we've pushed up, respected. You could probably get some longs off of that for a 1-to-1, but personally I'd want to wait because ES is very uncorrelated. And in situations like this, what we'll tend to do, we'll tend to push down towards the draw on liquidity, like so. And then we'll run higher after we've taken the draw. So we have put SMT in on one of the draws, but it doesn't make sense to me for this SMT to hold right now, as we should take out this low. We're literally like 2 points away from this low, point away, we should take it. So let's see. So we displace higher, tap the low, that's the manipulation. I want to see the push through it. There we go. So that's the push through it. So that's your SMT. So now you've got PXH, SMT with obviously manipulation. It's beautiful stuff. You could probably have a stop at this low. To be safe, you could go at this low. So look for something like a 1-to-1 just over. And let's see. So yeah, displacement towards the draw on liquidity. Clear continuation day. Let's see if we just push higher all day. Yeah, so pretty much we just push higher. So the reason I wanted to see is because when we have big gaps like this, we tend to just fill all the liquidity, then rebalance, create some structure, and then take the external draws. So yeah, just a lot of displacement. Solid price action. Them days are the easiest days to win in my opinion, just because it's one direction. All you have to wait for is manipulation, then you take a winner. It's that simple. So this day looks lower probable. As you can see, we have all these barcode candles. Whenever this happens, it tends to be a low probable day, unless 9:30 delivers a lot of volatility, and then or unless we have a news driver to deliver the volatility, we'll tend to chop up towards the news driver, and then we'll have some displacement and nice price. So let's see. So displace through these lows. So I'd be looking for a little bit of a continuation sequence down to this draw on liquidity. If we get some sort of rebalance displacement, that'd be nice. So no, so we take the draw. And it looks like it just wants to keep continuing. So let's just wait and see what happens. ES takes out the lows as well, so should get the rebalance. So we get a rebalance into this gap. So that does look okay for an entry, but I'd like a deeper rebalance just because we've displaced so many points. I'd like to see this low get met. So let's see what happens. Yeah, so that entry would have failed. So now we're pushing higher. So PXL has been ran through. However, if we do take this high here, that will put in SMT. So I'd still not really class that as PXL disrespect because this is the last line of defense for it to be a valid PXL. So let's see what happens. So we take the high on ES and we've not taken the high on no, we take the high on NQ and we haven't taken it on ES, sorry. And then we get the displacement. So unfortunately, I'm skipping 15 seconds at a time. So realistically, my entry would have been more towards this BC disrespect. But we'll see. Yeah, so we should still get, yeah, so we'll still make decent profit if we win, so it's fine. Hello, there we go. So we hit TP. My entry would have been here. I would have entered off of the speed with my stop loss above this manipulation, targeting the full draw down here. And in these cases, what we can do as well, we can tend to target more if it's valid. But in this specific situation, I personally don't think it is valid to target more, as we've rebalanced into a higher time frame PXH. So eventually the narrative should switch to bearish, to bullish. Sorry, my bad. So let's see. Do we displace higher? So since it's a higher time frame confluence, it will take a lot of time to play out, but I do think the narrative should change eventually. Yeah, so there we go. Do we get a market structure shift, displacement higher? So no, just seems like we're pushing lower. Interesting. Yeah, so same again. The reason I'm playing it out is just because we have a lot of big imbalances and I want to see if we displace through them, because I've been noticing that a lot in my data. No, so we're done. So next day. So going into 9:30, we have 10 AM news and it's a Friday. So, right. So let's see what happens. What do we see on the higher time frame? Pretty much nothing once again. All I can see is we have this 1 hour order block right here that's tapped into this gap and it's respecting. So all I can really get off this is we was bullish. However, now I'm not too sure. I could be wrong. So I do think it'd just be a bullish continuation day since we have 2 higher time frame confluences and nothing leaning towards bearish. As for us to be bearish, I feel like we'd have to take one of these highs and then run towards these lows. So I just think the move for the macro should be bullish. So let's see. So what happens? So 9:30 opens. Holy shit. I'm on the wrong. Yeah, there we go. So we take the draw. So let's see how we react to the draw. So that looks rather like a reversal sequence. However, we haven't really closed below the 50%. Every time we've tapped in, we've closed, pushed, respected. So I'm looking for more of a continuation sequence here. So realistically, you could most likely get your entry off of that. It's very discretionary. I want to wait for the SMT to go. Yeah, there we go. So I've noticed when SMTs get hit and... No, so when SMTs get put in on ES and then we meet it on NQ, we tend to see some displacement right after, off of the SMT being disrespected. Not always, but it does happen a lot. So yeah, there we go. So SMT disrespect, we displace higher. And then do we just keep going higher? Yeah, so another entry, if you wanted to wait for more confirmation, would have been this. This looks like a very nice trade. I don't know if I'd have spotted it in the moment, but that does look beautiful. So that here is solid too. So next day. So 9:30 displaces towards the lows and takes the lows out. Let's see what we see on the higher time frame. So we have this big new week opening gap on the hourly that we could be drawn towards, and we could fill this gap. So I've got more of a bearish narrative. However, we have just manipulated these internal lows inside of this 1 hour gap. So I could be wrong. Pretty neutral bias on the day, so let's get into it. I'm leaning more towards bearish though, so we will see. So what happens off of these lows? So we manipulate all the lows, I believe. I don't see why we wouldn't. Yeah, so we take lows. So that's the external lows. So what happens at the draw on liquidity? We get an order block creation, which is quite nice, looking rather bullish. So if we get the inverse on this small gap right here, I'll either wait for rebalance displacement or I'll just enter on the inverse. So let's see. So in this situation, I'm just going to wait until the next candle open. So I'm literally going to go to the 1 second, just see how the next candle opens. So yeah, we open bullish, so I'm going to enter there. Stop loss below here. And I could literally just target this 1 minute gap. Let's go to the 30 second. Holy. So that was a sketchy trade. It did want to wick around a little bit. However, the stop loss was valid and we did not get stopped. So in this situation, the reason we rebalanced is just to respect the order block to then push higher. However, it does look rather sketchy. The rebalance happened as well when we put the SMT in, I believe. No, forget that. But yeah, nice day. So we'll do one more day and then I'll wrap it up. So we're on the 14th, so do we have any news? So we've got Powell speaking. So to be honest, I'd rather skip this day, but I will see how it reacts just to put it in the backtesting session. So let's start on the higher time frame. What do we see? So realistically, all I can really get out of this is the fact that we've tapped into this new week opening gap, which does look rather nice for bullish price. So we'll see. It could be a very nice bullish day. So what time? Powell's not speaking until 12:20, so it might not affect it, to be honest. That is rather late. So what do we see? So we see displacement towards these lows. So let's see what happens at the lows. ES is uncorrelated and looks like it should SMT. So no, ES took the SMT, so we should get that displacement lower. Right, interesting. So it's displaced lower all day long. So I'm more leaning towards bearish still. So we'll see what happens. What do we see on the higher time frame as well? We've filled the full gap, so we've got no reason to go lower really, in my opinion. That's why I'm holding off a little bit on taking shorts because of that. I want to see a market structure shift here though before I get in longs, because it'd be stupid to enter longs down here off of this inverse when we've just dumped this many points. Like this right here looks more solid. So let's see, let's go on to the 5 second. So the candle closure is not bad. I'm going to take this entry. Stops down here. Hopefully we don't want to manipulate into this gap because the stop loss realistically should be down here, but I'm not going to risk that many points. It's just not worth it. In this situation, it's a case where we've dumped all day. If we're going to reverse, I may as well target these internal highs because there's no reason to reverse anywhere else if we do get the market structure shift. So I feel like we can catch a decent amount of points on this one, so we'll see. So we displace higher. So this is the PXL right here. So for the market structure shift to be valid and for us to be truly bullish, I'd like to see disrespect of this PXL. So yeah, that's the PXL disrespect unless we want to set in SMT to then run as low, which definitely could be possible. So that's internal manip. So we're still respecting bullish PD arrays, but we do have SMT right here. So I'm going to close the trade. And let's see if it runs full TP. I'm not actually sure, but we'll see. Yeah, there we go, that's full TP ran. So that's it, guys. So let's see the analytics. So 90% win rate, we took one losing trade. It is what it is. So lovely session. There we are, guys. Peace.